This month's topic comes from Bree. A comparison between the HD and SD versions of Star Wars The Force Unleashed? Can do. Remember Star Wars? No? Before Disney wiped the board clean to make room for their own dumb ideas, someone decided it would be a good plan to tell the story of how the rebellion from the first movies came to be, and Disney didn't learn anything from that, and went and tried that again. Now, a story about the rebellion could be interesting, probably. Maybe you could follow Princess Leia, or some sort of renegade pilot, or even show the Empire's side of things. Or it could be the story of Darth Vader's secret apprentice hunting down the last of the Jedi. Honestly, I have a bit of a soft spot for The Force Unleashed. It's certainly more straightforward than the prequels, even if it dips pretty far into fanfiction territory. Though in a post-Rogue One world, that doesn't mean much. The Force Unleashed is interesting beyond simply being a once-canon piece of Star Wars story, however. Like many games of the era, there are multiple versions of The Force Unleashed, due to the wide disparity of power between the different consoles available at the time. The two I'm talking about are the HD and SD versions, specifically the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 2 versions. Nearly every version of The Force Unleashed has some sort of exclusive content, but the HD version is definitely the main version. Being on the more powerful consoles, they obviously have the nicest presentation, though I do want to shout out the PS2 version for trying its best. Look at those cape physics. Look how hard they're trying. In terms of gameplay, there's some overlap. Most of the differences aren't huge. For example, the HD version of the game gives you differently colored tokens that can be used to upgrade different types of skills, while the SD version simply gives you general use points to spend. In general, I think the SD levels are a bit shorter, but both games tend to go on a bit too long. But I also found the enemies in the SD version to be less annoying overall. Besides that, there's just little anecdotes. Like in the SD version, you start off with all your force powers, and the main character, Starkiller, holds his lightsaber forward as opposed to the reverse grip in the main game. In the main game, you gradually unlock your force powers as you visit new levels, and each time you visit a new level, his outfit will change. What's weird is the SD version has all those outfits in the game, but you have to manually select them. Again, it's just weird small stuff. Possibly the biggest feature of The Force Unleashed was the physics-based force grip. You have complete control moving an enemy around when you grip them. You can send them flying, drag them along the ground, drop them off a pit, or lift them high up and let them fall. Enemies would react too. They could grab objects in the environment to support them. None of this actually meant much though, because it's incredibly inefficient, but it's certainly fun to play around with. The SD version couldn't really handle this, and it was more or less cut. Finally, while all the versions of the games and the novelization follow the same core narrative, they have different structures. Sometimes cutscenes are handled a little differently, but sometimes you get weird changes like this.
Lord Vader, we were ambushed upon arrival, but I have the situation well in...
I have no interest in your feelings, Commander. I am here on a mission of my own.
Lord Vader, we were ambushed upon arrival, but I have the situation well in...
I have no interest in your failures, Commander. I am here on a mission of my own.
A significant and cool leg up the SD version has over the HD version are the Jedi Temple visits. The story would occasionally be broken up by a level set in the Jedi Temple, ending with a boss fight against a historic Sith. These are cool and completely absent from the HD version. Instead, you can get the Jedi Temple DLC, which is a single level and comically overpriced. The HD version does have its own stuff though. You can fight Darth Maul in that one. So basically it's hard to say what's a better option here. Honestly, combining both games would make for a much better experience. But as is, both feel like they're missing something. Honestly, the games are super cheap now. If you care, you can probably try both for under 20 bucks. But if not, that's not a huge loss. The Force Unleashed isn't exactly the peak of the action genre or Star Wars storytelling. It's just a neat piece of Star Wars history.